Hello, life forms, biological, mechanical, and purely informational. Welcome to the makercast. You are watching a monthly live show featuring a bunch of small creators. It's just a place for Maker YouTube to talk about projects, videos, and I was specifically told to say this, the adventures that took place in the last month. You might not think of my channel as small, but trust me, it was when I volunteered to host this month's video. I say that because the MakerCast is unlike any other podcast. It travels from Maker channel to Maker channel. So if you like what you see, you got to check the playlist in the description to discover more episodes and the channels that host them. I was in last week's episode, so I know that one's good. If you're part of our live audience, thank you so much for joining in. You guys kick butt. This episode will be recorded and available on my channel in perpetuity as soon as it's done, which will end in about 2 hours. Feel free to ask anything in chat. My wife/overseer Brooke is reading all of your chats. She'll be forwarding me the good ones, and I will send them to the appropriate target at the appropriate time. Every super chat we receive today and the first month of ad revenue will be donated to the EFF to support the fight for net neutrality. If only because I don't want to deal with the hassle of splitting revenue 6 ways. Speaking of, it is time to introduce today's victims. I am joined by 5 awesome makers from across the world and from across YouTube. In no particular order, we've got Becky Stern, a YouTuber and designer of maker-friendly tech and craft projects based out of Brooklyn, New York. If you've been in this hobby for more than 10 minutes, you've definitely seen her projects and videos, so prepare to put a face with the name. Ian Charnas, an engineering YouTuber extraordinaire, and the reason why I can only be the second funniest person on this stream. Ian builds crazy inventions like printing a check onto a cake, and he uses them to raise funds for worthy causes. We've got Seon, aka UnexpectedMaker, a full-time maker YouTuber, and unlike me, an authentic card-carrying engineer. Seon has been building a pick-and-place machine and documenting the entire process on his channel, and the whole thing is insane. Helen Leigh, writer and maker of wild, custom-built electronic musical instruments. I know her for the mini music glove she built for Imogene Heap. You might know her as a regular columnist for Make Magazine. Her book, DIY Music Tech, is dropping soon. Finally, we have Clem Mayor, aka Mayor Makes, a professional prototype developer and seller of vintage parts and curiosities. Most of Clem's videos are not actually on his channel. He's best known for Element 14 Presents, where he made a Wi-Fi breadboard multimeter and a whole bunch of other neat stuff. And myself, your favorite hardware hacking cyborg who wants you to finish more projects. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the projects and the videos that have been done for the last month. And who better to start with than the most recent addition to the MakerCast crew, Helen. Welcome aboard.
Let's unmute myself. How about that? Hello.
How's it going? Welcome to the States, by the way.
Thank you. Yes, I am a recent immigrant, and let me tell you, the pandemic is not an optimum time to go through the immigration process.
Oh no, it's just slowed everything down.
Oh yeah, I mean, all blah blah blah. Yeah, but it's also difficult to integrate into a new place when you can't actually see anybody.
I feel like that's. I feel like for myself and for probably a few others in this chat, we didn't. Pandemic's the same as always. We're always in our basements working on stuff.
Not me. I'm the most sociable nerd you'll ever meet. I'm always all over the world at conferences and nerding out with other people in just different dark rooms, right? Okay, they are dark rooms.
Fair enough.
But just,
What's your favorite conference? What's the one that people probably haven't heard of?
So my favorite European conference is the Chaos Computing Club Congress, which happens between Christmas and New Year's, so it's an excellent excuse to leave on Boxing Day and go hang out with nerds in a giant conference center, which is full of like techno and weird robots and people wearing these huge light sculptures. It's the biggest and most iconic hacker festival in Europe, and that's wonderful. And they do a summer edition every 4 years as well. In America, I really love SuperCon, which is run by Hackaday, and I also really love Teardown, which I will be running as of next year, which is quite an exciting challenge. And they're very much like hardware and art festivals. So
those are some great choices. It's too bad the SuperCon. It's too bad like we couldn't do any of these this year. Last SuperCon was the best. best. It was the best.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
So the big question of the day: what did you make this month?
So mostly this month. So as you know, I've just moved here, knocking my light off the pedestal here, and I've made my workbench this month.
The one behind you?
Yeah. So I made that this month, and I've been populating it and unpacking all my components, and it's like such a weird experience as a maker to leave behind your workbench. I couldn't bring most of my tools with me, so I've had to repopulate it from scratch. So my major project this week has been creating a space that I can use to create the new things. But I've been revisiting some old projects as they've been brought out of the boxes. So that's been really fun. I've been trying to make progress on an old project of mine, actually, which is this leather glove. This is a project that I worked on with an artist back in the days when I was living in London. Let me pop it on for you. And this was originally designed for I used to have a herd of robot unicorns that I would take around with me, and they were gesture controlled, initially by a small controller that you'd hold in your hands. But then eventually we made this glove, and I worked with a leather artist to make this glove that would control a herd of robot unicorns by like this. So I just wanted to like really feel like a Disney villain. So I could move my hand forward and it would control a herd of robot unicorns.
So you, with a gesture, can summon a herd of robot unicorns.
Yes, but the thing is, like, all of my robot unicorns were really shitty, like on purpose. They were like really badly, kind of like, they were made with H bridges or like proper motors. What I used were 2 continuous rotation servos, which, as anyone who's used like a continuous rotation servos will know, like, they're not always the most reliable, and they're not always the same on both sides. So my little robot unicorns would just be like, like they would go their own way, but they're kind of like, the intrinsic unreliability of those robot unicorns was actually very charming. But yeah,
where did the idea for this project come from?
Well, actually, it was a fit of pique that I'd just written a whole bunch of curriculum for an extremely boring robot company. And all their robots do is go forward with precision, backwards with precision, follow a line with precision. And I was just like, this is the most personality-free robot I've ever seen. So I set out to make a very personality-full robot that was unreliable, just to cleanse my soul of the boredom of writing that curriculum. But I made it into an instrument. So now this leather glove actually controls. I've done a little bit of a hack. This is just a microbit, which is a $10 children's microcontroller, which I love using because it's so fun and simple. And it's Bluetoothing accelerometry data via, by Bluetooth, hello, you just said that, to another microbit, which is plugged into my computer. And then that microbit is telling my laptop that information via serial, and that's then controlling a sampler synthesizer that I've made and put up on GitHub, which is full of sounds of machines and also sounds of taken from another artist friend's project. So she basically takes all these really cool found pieces of sound, and then she bounces them off the moon, and then records what they sound like when they come back, which is like all scratched up and gritty and kind of cool. So yeah, so I turned my leather robot unicorn controller into a moon bouncing synthesizer. That's what I've been working. Yeah, so she works with a telescope, like one of those big observatories. And when they've got spare capacity, they just bounce her sounds off the moon for her.
Pretty fun.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah. How exactly do you translate motion into audio? Is it like going in specific directions, play specific samples? Do you bend the pitch?
You can do all of those things. I mean, the thing is, like, with these kind of controllers, like, essentially you're just sending data, right, to your computer, and then on your computer you decide what that data does. So in this case, I'm setting thresholds, right? So like, I'm getting a value from my accelerometer. So I'm like, okay, I've got 10 different samples that I'd like to play. So I'm going to divide up those 10, I'm going to divide up my possible data into 10 chunks. And whenever the data hits those different values, it then just triggers a sample. This is a very simple thing. There's no synthesis. It's just a sample trigger based on, like a continuum.
Very cool. We're getting some questions in from the audience. Maiko asks, what made you move, love or work?
Yes.
Love of work or both?
No, love. So I did fall in love with an American, which was very foolish of me. But yeah, he's all right. But also, I don't know, like I've mainly been like a European-centric hacker. Like I've been very active in London and then very active in Berlin when I lived there for 2.5 years. But I'd never really been part of the US hacker scene until I came to SuperCon a couple of years ago. And I just fell in love with the West Coast hacker culture. I think it's like a super fun and super, I don't know, I just really like the vibe. And I felt like I'd really like to live on the West Coast and like really just take part in the US hacker culture. I think there's some really exciting people that I'm like peers with now, which is really cool.
It is kind of interesting, like that some cities some cities develop a hacker culture, but some don't really get a lot of hacker spaces.
Yeah, and so Portland, which is where I've landed now, is we chose that like very, very on purpose. So both my husband and I are very much like hackery types. So we both needed to be somewhere where there was a good hacker space, and yeah, happily there's a wonderful one here called Control H. It's super cute. So yeah,
Portland has there are a bunch of hacker spaces.
Yeah, loads of them. And loads of really awesome people here as well. And just like super nice and generous. I think Portland's a great city, actually.
A bit of a change of subject. Dustin Watts asks, is that a resistor tattoo?
Yes, baby. Actually, I've not shown the internet this yet. Yeah, it's a resistor. It's not just a resistor tattoo. It's also a polyphonic triangle wave. I got that as my leaving present for myself when I left Berlin. Yeah.
It's very cool. We
I like that.
Let's see. So putting three of the same tattoos in parallel reduces the resistance. Which is handy.
It does. I like it. Yeah.
Helen, can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Is it Conductive Tattoo Ink?
No, I wish.
Does that exist?
That would be so cool. I've got lots of Conductive ink in my workbench, but I've never attempted to tattoo Conductive ink. I wonder if it can be done. It would be so cool. I've seen some people have done like implants. So Amy Double D, she's done like some really cool stuff with implants. So people do biohacking. This is not conductive; it's just ordinary tattooing.
So we have a super chat. First off, thank you very much to Anthony Harris. Anthony asks, do you have a favorite noob-friendly circuit design program?
A circuit design program for building circuit boards? I would definitely have to rep KiCad or KiCad, depending however you like to pronounce it. Apparently it's a Euro-US thing. So KiCad used to be like the poorer cousin of a design software like Eagle, but since CERN, which is the big particle accelerator laboratory in Europe, since CERN have given them both funding and also full-time members of staff, so KiCad is both open source and its functionality is excellent now. There's a wonderful community. I would definitely highly recommend Chris Gamel's YouTube videos on the matter. He does a wonderful series called Getting to Blinky on KiCad. So that'd be my top circuit design recommendation there.
His stuff really, he was like the guy who made the whole thing popular.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when we move beyond Eagle. And I'll be happy to get more people listening to his stuff. It's great. So you're like one thing that makes this MakerCast interesting is that we don't just build stuff, we also make videos. So have you put anything online in the past month?
Well, I've been pretty slack in the last month, to be honest, but I have been immigrating and starting a new job, so I'm going to forgive myself. To be honest, like I do feel like a little bit of a fraud being on a YouTuber make a YouTube cast because I've been dabbling with video for a while, but to be honest, most of the video I've done is for other people, not for my own channel. But it's something I'm really wanting to get back into now. I've got a dedicated space and I've got, I'm setting up a down camera, all that kind of thing. So
you put together a pretty interesting circuit sculpture, though.
I have done lots of yes, I have done. That's a cool video. If you wanted to share that one.
Links to links to the projects and videos we talk about will end up in the description. But that was
Okay,
pretty.
cool.
That was pretty cool. How difficult was that to film?
Well, it wasn't difficult to film at all, that one. To be honest, I mean, the build was more of the difficult build for that. I mean, I'm very proud of that piece of build. I mean, the reason why I wanted to share that particular build is because I've just done a new version of it, and the creature, the harp creature that's shown in that video, I just wrote up the whole project for Hackspace Magazine, who have released it for free as a free download. That's going to be part of my upcoming book on DIY experimental music tech as well.
Oh, we got famous people and we got published authors in here. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really nice make, and it looks like a this like big playable piece of art, and it sounds really nice. But actually, if you take that make methodically, it's actually a relatively simple thing to do. You just have to really watch your soldering skills. Yeah, it's a fun one, and it's been really fun to revisit it and make it a lot more golden and shiny and cool.
Sounds like a cool project.
Thank you. I enjoyed making it.
It literally sounds like a cool project too. Does it work? Can you demo it?
It does work. I cannot demo it because the poor little creature is currently bundled up and I've not resurrected it yet since my move. Yeah,
you didn't put it in a kennel?
No, I feel quite bad actually. It's basically like all of its limbs are like sellotaped together, and it's like lying sideways on a shelf right now. So
do you feel like you empathize with the project a little better after having made it look like an animal?
Definitely, of course, yeah. Like all of the stuff that I make is like I like making strange little creatures. I think they're really fun things to make, and then I do unfortunately imbue them with some kind of personality. But they're always nice, kind creatures in my world. Like, I like the idea of electronics with personality. I make lots of things with personality.
I think enough makers struggle to put personality in themselves, let alone their projects.
Oh, no one's ever accused me of not having enough personality. Rather the opposite.
Fair enough. How's the reaction to the project been, and the video as well?
Really good actually. So as the project itself was really kind of a departure from the things that I'd done before. So historically, I've pretty much been making my living by making things and writing about them for different magazines, and that necessarily enforces like some quite a lot of simplicity, right? You've got to make a project that's easy enough, like that's accessible enough for people to do that, like both in terms of the complexity and the skills required and also the tool set required. But this is the first time kind of project where I started to try and do something a little bit more complicated just for myself, to do things that were like a multi-day project. And I felt like that was a departure for me. I mean, we've got the queen of perfect beginner tutorials in the house today, Becky Stern, who like is the gold standard.
You're talking about me.
Yeah. What, you? You? Yeah. So she's.
So did you design this project intending to make tutorials about it, or is it just like this would be cool?
I mean, it started off, this will be cool, but necessarily, like at the time, like that's how I was making my living, right? So you have to turn everything you make into something that you sell into a magazine. You do, and actually, now I've moved into...
Works the same way for YouTube a little, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I was at a point in my practice where I was like, this is actually really influencing the things that I make for myself. And I'm really interested to see, because I've taken a job, like a real job in Portland. And I'm really interested to see how the things I make change because of that, because I don't have to fit it into a certain form factor. It's going to be an interesting experiment anyway.
It's always good to try new stuff. Keeps the creative juices flowing.
Yeah,
it's really easy to just get, especially when you're under pressure to keep making stuff. The temptation to play the hits is always there.
Yeah.
Like everyone's always bugging me for more Among Us projects, but I don't want to do more Among Us projects right now. We have some. We've received some chats. See, Allcrafter, thanks so much for the super chat. You kick butt. Mark Olson, thank you so much for the super chat. Mark says, "Love MakerCast. Welcome to the new makers." Yes, welcome all makers in the audience, new and returning. Then finally, Viet Dong says, "Electronics with personality." Yeah, Helen, what online community do you recommend? Are there any cool Discord channels, especially where I can talk to people like over audio?
Oh, over audio. So I would say that pre-pandemic, I would do two things, right? One would be Twitter. Like, I love Twitter, as long as you don't get distracted with all the nonsense. There's some wonderful things on Twitter.
Maker Twitter is the best Twitter.
I love Maker Twitter. And everyone's so friendly as well. And I was thinking this the other day. I was like, I never feel scared to say I don't have no idea what I'm doing in this situation, or like ask for help, even on something that some people might think is really basic. Like I just feel like Maker Twitter is actually really great. And then the most people that I would meet, though, is going to conferences and so on. So it's been really difficult. I'd say, so I went to my local Hackerspace Control H runs something every 2 weeks called Dorkbot. So I went onto their Dorkbot session this last week, and they've got this really cute little interface. It's like you have a little player character, like it's like in Zelda or something, and then you like walk around with your little character. And then when you're standing next to other characters, you're automatically in audio video, right? Which is a really nice dynamic, because you can always just like walk off and talk to another group of people, but you can, it's a really nice dynamic. So I'd really recommend, like, if you're interested in electronics, to check out Dorkbot. That's a really fun one, like every couple of weeks. Some really nice people, just super casual, but that's nice. But yeah.
Of course, I'm legally obligated to plug the Void Star Lab Discord. We recently became Discord partners, so we can actually say we're cool now. Senpai noticed us. I should have a note for that down in the description. Yeah, but the maker community is just so welcoming, all things considered. Like, especially if you haven't got involved in it, it's really easy to like. It is. It's really tempting to think of like, oh, these are going to be like elitist, holier-than-thou nerds, and be like, an Arduino. Who uses those anymore? We've all switched to 600 megahertz RISC-V cores. But no, people are really friendly in this hobby. It's pretty crazy. I guess we're in the subject. Anyone else have a community they'd like to plug?
I'm big into Instructables, but I worked there. But it was before I worked there, and that's part of the reason I worked there. It's a nice, friendly place. Be nice policy in the comments. I've met some of my best internet friends way back in the day when I was in college, started posting on Instructables, like through commenting on other people's project. Hey, your project is like my project. Oh, great, your project. Let's be friends. So I think that's a great way. So that counts for all of them, I guess. So like Instructables, Hackster, Hackaday.io, and any place where people are sharing their projects and you can comment on each other's projects. I think that's a great way to meet people.
I'd second Hackaday.io. They're really nice as well.
Has anyone
the Hackaday comments can be brutal, but the Hackaday.io comments are really nice.
The Hackaday comments are like, I think it's got to be a meme at this point. Like I'm sure people are just acting like jerks because, like, to perpetuate the stereotype. It's got to be a meme.
There is a bit of actually happening there at any given moment.
Scoops of it.
Yeah, so much. Have you tried using a 555?
I got enough people ripping me apart from ragging on 555s in last month's episode. Some parts I just can't believe people still use them. It's ridiculous.
I'm building something with a 555 right now, actually. Multiple 555s.
Can you show it off?
It's on my soldering bench right there.
Look at that soldering station. First off, that's unfairly clean. Second off, like what's the system you got there? Helping
so that's
hands?
a Hacko, and that's got these. This is a wonderful. I think they're from some company called Hobbycraft. It's like a magnetic base layer, and then you've got kind of crane hands. It's super. I love it. And then a magnifying light over the top of it. No, I'm a big fan. Actually, one thing, and we'll just go and reach it because it's really worth showing you. This is like the best soldering tool ever. I love it. It's changed my soldering life. It's Engineer, which is a Japanese brand. and it's a solder sucker. And I always hated solder suckers until I used this bad boy. This is so cool. Would recommend. It's only like $12 or something, but would recommend.
Oh, that's the one with the silicone tip so that it doesn't melt when you're sucking up the solder.
Yeah, it's the best. That's the best one. And the noise is the best. It's overall best experience.
It's like this really nice, like solid metal. Like,
well, play. You gotta suck some solder. Like you gotta play the sound. We all want to hear it.
Hang on, here it is.
Is this turning into an ASMR channel right now?
Isn't it good?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Seon is a full-on desoldering pump.
That's a proper solder sucker.
Yeah. That's the big boys one. But like for traveling, this is amazing, right?
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So we've got two more super chats. Johnny Bergdahl and Mark Olson. Thank you so much. Mark asks, has anyone used the BGA 555 timer? What? Why does that exist?
Why would you need that?
That's terrible. No one should ever use that. No.
I got too excited about my solder pump. I didn't tell you what I'm soldering with the 555s. It's a polyphonic synthesizer from Oscotone, who are a lovely like hacker community, small business, and they do like 3D printed synthesizers. And this is their newest one, which is a polyphonic synthesizer that uses 555 chips. It's really fun.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cute.
Almost, we're almost ready to move on to someone else. But didn't you have a book? Don't you have a book coming too?
Oh yeah, I suppose I just finished that thing. Yes, there's a book coming. It's going to be like DIY music technology and experimental electronics to make experimental sounds. Stuff like my golden disco ball theremin, which controls my synth. I've got DIY embroidery hoop. This is a microphone that I made for part of it. Doo-doo. I've made fully embroidered analog synths in it as well, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's like a book about experimental music controllers, and it'll be coming out when I finish it later this year. Just follow me on Twitter, at Helen Leigh, to get notifications.
I guess we'll hear it coming before we see it coming. Yeah. So next up on our list here is Ian. How's it going? How's life?
Having the time of my adult life.
Is a lab coat what are you building? You need a lab coat for?
Oh, I've got a electrochemistry set up behind me. So I've got my safety goggles in the right place, which is on the bench, not on my face. And if I was running that, I'd have them on. But I've got an electroplating set up behind me. My background, I've done my degrees are in computer engineering, mechanical engineering, and 3/4 of an electrical engineering degree. So I love those things, and most of my projects are in those topics. But I've always wanted to branch off into chemistry. And I thought electrochemistry, I've got one foot in a topic I know well enough, electronics, and this other foot can be in the danger zone. So behind me is a electroplating setup for plating metal onto plastics. So you
Wait a
start
second.
with,
I thought you could only plate onto metal. I thought that's...
Normally you can only plate onto metal. You have an anode, like this piece of nickel here, and you put it inside an electrically conductive bath called an electrolyte. And then you have some other piece of metal, like, there's no other pieces of metal in front of me, like this aluminum can. Plating aluminum is hard, but pretend it was copper. And you kind of flow current between these two things, and little particles leave this anode and go over here to the cathode. They kind of go woo, and they stick onto the cathode. And over time, you get a film and then a metal matrix onto the part. But it is possible to plate non-conductive objects. It's just harder. And who doesn't like a good challenge? So
how do you actually plate something non-conductive?
There's two ways to plate non-conductive objects. One of them, there's an electroless process, which means you dip your plastic part. Here's oh, come on, focus. There we go. Here's just a little 3D printed PLA plastic test strip. You can dunk this into a series of terribly toxic chemical baths, if you're into that kind of thing. Or a method that's getting more popular now. Actually, Clem did this on his channel, and he did a wonderful video. I was able to learn from what he did and what other YouTube makers have done, so that I can try to do something that adds back to adds some richness to the conversation. So you take your piece of plastic and you coat it with a conductive paint. So this paint is an acrylic-based graphite paint. I tried 7 different paints, and this one from AR Chemicals, Total Graphite, Total Ground, that's the one that I used. This is slightly conductive. So now you can do more or less a traditional electroplating process. This blue bath back here is for electroplating copper, and this green bath over here is for electroplating nickel. The copper goes on really smoothly. So here's one of those test strips that's been plated with copper. The burn marks are also copper. They're just a little bit burnt. This is pretty good. Electrically, this gets down to about 3 milliohms square resistance. And then, if you want, you can buff it and make it shiny. Come on, focus, work with me here. I don't know if you can see that. And then you can plate it with, in the green bath, which is the nickel bath. And initially, it'll look kind of dull. But once you buff it or polish it or hit it with some 000, it'll start turning shiny. Come on, focus. Oh, there we go. So now you can see this one shiny.
Hey, Ian, be honest.
Yeah.
You're pickling. So in the green one, you're electroplating pickles, right? It's like a jar of pickles.
It is. I am
radioactive pickles.
Nickel-plated pickles.
Yeah,
there is a pickle.
Yeah.
They do call. You're
talking pickles.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So you're right. If I were to take this pickle and cover
Which you
it
just
with
conveniently happen to have within arm's reach.
Yeah.
Now and then things happen. If I were to coat this, hold on, I'll coat this really quickly in the graphite paint.
Well, how do they plate baby shoes? Is this how they do baby shoes?
This is how we do baby shoes. So I've coated this really quickly. I did a quick prime lift. Yeah. In the graphite paint. And then, you know what? Whoop! There it is in the bath right now. It's being plated with copper, and I don't know if I can pull this out. You know what? It's going to eat up too much time. The pickle's in there, and it's getting coated in copper. And then I'm going to coat the pickle in nickel, which was Zach's suggestion in Discord.
The madman did it.
And in honor of Zach, I'm sending the nickeled pickle to you. So this is coming your way, buddy. I hope you don't. Oh, should I? Sorry, I probably should show your address. Okay.
Mail order nickel pickle. Oh my gosh.
There's some. So in each of my videos, I like to do a challenge, and the challenge I'm setting myself up for this time is: can I make a more environmentally friendly, more healthy, friendly option? So this is the traditional way to do a nickel bath. This is the Watts bath. You can find it on Wikipedia in the nickel electroplating. So you put in the nickel sulfate, you put in the nickel chloride. By the way, if you buy chemicals, you want them to be these beautiful colors, right? I mean, you feel like you're really working with chemicals now. And you also have to add in some boric acid, and maybe you add in some, where is it? I think I did center focus there, boric acid. But you know, if you look at the NFPA chart for these, what's an NFPA chart? If you look at the side of a truck, you'll see this little diamond shape, and it's got a blue square, a red square, a yellow square, and a white square. That's the National Fire Protection Agency rating. And it says what the health hazard is, and fire hazard, and corrosiveness, and special concerns. These chemicals are sort of moderate. You know, you don't want to drink them, so they're not crazy dangerous, except if I did the copper bath, the traditional, you know, chemical-y way, I'd have to use sulfuric acid, battery acid, which is more on the dangerous side for several of those categories. So I set out a challenge to myself. Can I make an electroplating bath that works with vinegar and works with, in the case of copper, hydrogen peroxide? And can I find, through reading lots and lots of research papers, some leaveners like saccharin? This is what's in Sweet and Low. I don't know if that focused or not. And polyethylene glycol, your favorite chemical. Is this going to focus? There we go. Ignore the laxative.
Yeah, that's an ominous label.
Polypropylene glycol, or polyethylene glycol. So I've done 7 different chemical baths. I've done 7 different paints that you can use. And I finally found some good recipes that I'm going to be sharing. So I feel like that contributes back to the discussion on how to do this kind of plating.
Think of the possibilities. Electroplate pickles, electroplate cookies. I could electroplate myself. I could literally be golden.
I like golden, Zach. It reminds me of...
Actually, you know, bronze makes more sense because, like, I don't have to get tanned. I can just be bronze already. Like, literally. So is this a project you'd recommend to beginners? Or is this, like, advanced, like, get yourself a fume hood stuff?
This doesn't really need a fume hood. I was just setting up here, so I thought it'd be cool to shoot here. And if you have a fume hood, use it. But this is definitely something that you can do at home in your kitchen or in your garage. The fumes that it makes are not dangerous. The chemicals are easy to dispose of afterwards. But I didn't want to just do electroplating. So my ultimate goal is to electroplate this Thor hammer. So I've got a 3D printed Thor hammer that I've been building. Just ignore that that's blue for the time being. Here's the little hilt with the fake runes on it from Asgard. And I'm going to be metal plating this with nickel. And then I want to recreate the scene. I'm a big Marvel fan, and I want to recreate the scene in the Thor movies where he summons lightning. So I actually, one of my earlier projects I started a few years ago was a musical Tesla coil group. And I actually have a couple of photos of that I can share with you. So a musical Tesla coil is a device that shoots out bolts of lightning, and the electricity is tuned so that or modulated so that it makes music. So here's us in Austria. These are 12-foot tall. They used to be the world's largest twin musical Tesla coils. And then I get out on the stage in this metal suit, and I can kind of dance around with the lightning bolts. And thanks to the metal suit, I like don't die, which is a great feature of the suit. It's worth every penny. So we're kind of like a nerdy rock band, and we travel around and we do these different shticks. And I think one of the shticks I want to add to our repertoire is for me to be in a Thor suit and to summon lightning. So I needed a lightweight Thor hammer that I could spin around my head and call the lightning to me. So if I were to make my Thor hammer out of metal, it might be 7 or 10 pounds. And I don't know if you can see my body. I was clearly made for typing. So I can't spin a 10-pound hammer around my head. I'm not a He-Man. But if it was about 1 pound, which is what this plastic hammer is, I could spin that around my head. That's not too much. I've tested that out with a 1-pound water bottle. I have a couple little snippets because I know that not everyone has seen a this kind of device here, and so I thought I would share some video of what a musical Tesla coil actually looks like. I've got a clip I'm queuing up here just of the musical Tesla coil, so we can give that a play.
Hope we don't get copyright struck by Nikola Tesla.
Don't add us, Nikola, especially because you're from beyond this mortal realm. So that's what those things look like. And then I get out on the stage with this chainmail suit, and I can interact with the lightning bolts and not die. I've got a clip queued up of what that looks like. I've got a different clip queued up of what that looks like.
Does it only produce square waves, or is that just what your software does?
It is definitely square wave. If you were into 80s era synthesizers, you would be into this tone.
That's like a technical limitation?
So what we're doing, if you had a super high-speed camera, you would see the spark turning on and off 440 times a second if we were playing A4. violinist, that's the A string on your violin. So we're modulating the sound. Anything you can turn on and off, square wave style, you can hear. Now we've been able to soften the corners of the square wave just a little bit in recent times. So it's gotten a little bit better. But no matter how good we can make the sound, it's always going to sound like giant bees are trying to sing.
It's still really impressive because it kind of visualizes itself too. That's pretty rad. We've got a few chats. Mark Olson, thanks a lot for Swedish Kroner, I guess. Oh wait, I already thanked this guy. Hans Bickhoff, thank you very much for your super chat. Jerome asks, "What does your shirt say?"
Oh, my shirt is. I don't know if you're a fan of 80s films and if you saw Real Genius, but this is the shirt from that film. Go Val Kilmer.
Let's see. Pile of Stuff asks, was that the giant Tesla coil group that did the Thor's Hammer video with Hacksmith?
Oh no, Hacksmith did a cool video with a guy named, the Tesla coil world's very small. I can look at the Tesla coils and know who built it. There's a group in the UK, there's a group in Texas, there's a group in Cleveland, Ohio. That was a guy named Aaron Kosho. And on Hacksmith's channel, he took a Thor's hammer, which he purchased, and he attached a conductive wire that then went off to ground. And he did get in a metal suit, and he did sort of summon lightning. So anytime you do something, if you want to do it a little bit differently, a little bit more interesting than what you've seen before. So what I'm adding is music. We're going to be using the Thor's theme song from the Marvel movies, which is Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song. I'm also adding the costume. I'm making the hammer. And really, the video is a way to showcase this novel electrochemical process to plate onto plastic. So it's a reason to make the juice worth the squeeze.
So what else have you been working on besides giant Tesla coils? What about your videos? Anything interesting on the channel for folks to find? Yeah,
there was probably the biggest video that I've done yet in terms of how many people liked it and viewed it. I did a video about a new way to make invisibility shields. Do you remember a couple months ago? Was it a year ago? COVID really stretches our timelines. There were invisibility shields that had appeared on YouTube. Originally, in 1933, a magician named Lubor Fiedler, go Lubor, he made this illusion called Lubor's lens, and it's a lenticular lens. It's what you use to make flip images. If you had like a flip image on your Trapper Keeper when you were in middle school, you take that material without the image in the back, and it has a cool optical effect where it can hide objects. It can make certain objects look invisible. A Canadian company in 2015 took that, enlarged it on a large scale, and used it to hide people. They thought it was going to be sort of a military invisibility shield. It's not very practical for that application.
How does that work? How does it get light from behind you in front of you?
So the lenticular lens is the technology you use, and each of the little lenticules is a lens that sort of bends the light around you. So you know what? I think an image is worth 1,000 words. So let me show you a couple images. Here's some.
Hey, you can't let them see the script. It'll break the immersion.
Done. So take a look at this.
Huh.
This is the invisibility shield. And right now, the lenticules are oriented vertically. And what happens is they tend to show whatever is to the right and to the left of me. And it sort of deletes the image of me from the center. And this mirrors what you see in a flip image. If you take the lenticular sheet off of a flip image, you'll see that it's two images that have been interlaced. And they actually have little gray stripes in the dead zone of the lenses. And so I'm standing in the dead zone of the lenses, and you don't see me. You just see whatever's behind me. The only way this effect works and actually produces an illusion is if you have a background that has strong horizontal stripes. So obviously, we're not actually seeing through me. We're seeing what's over here. And if I look at this image, we're not seeing through me, we're seeing what's over here. So it's crucial to have some strong horizontal stripes in the background. But when you do, I mean, that's a pretty good
really
illusion. So on my videos, what I do, I like to have each of us has a recipe for the way we make videos. If I saw a play-by-play of a Becky Stern video, I would know that it's a Becky Stern video without hearing her voice, without seeing her image, because of the style. And if I was falling out of my chair laughing, I would know that's a Zack Freedman video. So there's a certain format that we've each adopted for ourselves. And what I try to do is I try to have something that's technically challenging and difficult, and combine that with some entertainment. So I'm going to be nickeling a pickle. I'm going to nickel, this is a Ken doll. I'm going to nickel the back of Ken, so I can make a nickel back.
Oh, no.
Which I guess sort of sounds like a slur against cyborgs. I'm sorry, Zach. I didn't mean to bring that into the conversation. And then I also like to have a fundraiser, so or something else that's a public benefit. Those are the three components in my recipe for my videos on my channel. So with this Invisibility Shield, it's a really cool technology. I found a new way to improve the clarity that's a little bit above and beyond what I've seen elsewhere on YouTube. So that's the technical challenge. If you watch the video, you'll see where the funny bits are. And then the fundraiser is that once I'm done making it, I raffle it off. So if you want to win this, raffle tickets are $1. You can find the link to the raffle on my YouTube video. I think it's a pinned comment at the top. And then you can have a chance to win this. And all of the proceeds from the raffle go to an invisible problem, hunger. We're going to send all of the 100% of the raffle dollars to a group that's working to address the root causes of hunger.
That sounds like a great cause. I'm more than a little worried about the ramifications of giving YouTube viewers easy access to invisibility technology. Bit of a ring of Gyges thing going on.
Yeah. What in the chat to the viewers? What would you do if you could become invisible? What's a time you would like to be able to become invisible?
I personally have some ideas.
Mm-hmm. Corporate espionage.
I could eat a lot and then just like cut a buff guy shape, like a buff guy shaped slot in it. You
can hide your snacks from people.
Solid. Yes, exactly. I can hide my shame.
Or you could just eat a lot and accept the consequences, right?
Yeah, I guess that would work too. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ian. You got to check out his YouTube channel too. Again, links are all down below. Let's move on to Seon, better known as UnexpectedMaker. Welcome here.
Thank you.
I don't think we need to ask what you're working on. You've been working on the pick and place machine for a while, and it's getting pretty impressive.
So, yeah, okay. A couple of things. What do you mean by pick and place? Because I'm not working on one. I've got one.
You're working on the part like the turn. You're working on a turntable.
Oh, manual pick and place. Oh, okay, right. Because I've got a lot of videos about my actual pick and place, but I'm not building it. Right. You
got a bunch. Okay. You got multiple picks and places.
Right. So yeah, I think you're talking about this thing. Right. Okay, that was confusing because Stephen Hawes is obviously making a pick and place machine, and I don't want to make a pick and place machine. I bought one, so yeah, not my wheelhouse. But this is so basically. About a year and a half ago, I designed a little turntable for me to help with my surface mount assembly for my boards that I build, my prototypes. And I originally wanted to turn that into an electronic parts dispenser. I've got quite a few videos and streams I did about that, but I just had some problems finding the right type of steppers and getting it working properly. And so I abandoned the idea and made myself a manual pick and place and started using it in my videos when I was assembling boards and obviously using it on my streams. And people in the community were saying, where can I get one? Where can I get one? And it was a really terrible construction that I'd made. It really wasn't something I wanted to share the design files for because it was cumbersome to build. and it wasn't very sturdy, and it wasn't. It was a little uncomfortable to use, even though I'd built hundreds of boards with it. And I always kept promising everyone that I would redesign it and I'd release the files. I'd redesign it, release the files. Well, I actually finally did 18 months later. And sorry to keep everyone waiting. And I released a video about this the other day, last week. And it's basically, this is it. So it's got 2 independent rotating sections. So I've got a whole bunch of components in here, as you can see. It's really nice, buttery smooth rotation. Ooh. So I've got sets of 0402 components and other things in there. Bit hard to see them because they're so small. I don't want to tip it all the way over. And then the top section is also independent rotation. So if I'm building a PCB, I could stick the PCB on top here while I'm working. I could put any loose components around here, like large components, and then I can either sit under my microscope or just, depending on the size of the components, just sit there with my glasses, and I pick components out from this front section here. So that would be facing me, and pick them out and put them on the boards, pick them out. So the biggest problem with surface mount assembly for doing, small run is that it takes much longer to get your components out than it does to actually place them on the board. You're constantly either going to reels or going to containers and pulling them out and taking strips of parts and taking them out of the parts and counting them out. And when you work with small components, 0603 is not too much of a problem with resistors, but with capacitors. But 0402 down, there's no markings on the components. So if you pull out a whole bunch of different 0402 sized capacitors and they get mixed up together, you don't know which one's which. They all look identical. And trying to measure a 0402 capacitor with a DMM to try to find out what it is, as you try to measure it, it goes flying across the room and you've lost it. It's in the carpet somewhere.
That's a really clever design. Is it taped together? What's going on with the tape?
So it's interesting. I had a lot of feedback about this. So this is by design. It's taped together, but it's designed to be glued. My original design never got glued because the way I built it, I couldn't get labels in easily. So the way you fill the parts in, I'll just show you these 2 pieces. You get parts in by a little 3D printed funnel. So I can put this funnel there, and then I can just fill parts in easily.
Yeah, show us your funnel.
So refilling parts is easy, but on my previous design, changing a label or putting a new label in was really hard. I had to take the cover off. And so I never glued it down. But I redesigned the shape of this one to make sure that I can actually get a label in now. So because I can, I'm going to glue it. Now, a few people, so I actually released the files for these, and stacks of people have been making them, which is great. And quite a few people have been respinning them and designing, different mechanical ways for the cover to stay on. But I designed mine specifically like this to make it a perfectly smooth edge. I could have lifted the sides and put a locking mechanism for the cover that went in and rotated into place. Or I could have, some people have built it up with a little bit of a lip so it clips into place. But what I find is when I'm working, when I've got my hand next to it with my tweezers, I rest my hand on the edge here as I'm working. And I find that without having it a perfectly flat edge, it's really uncomfortable for me. It could be a sensory thing, I don't know. But when I'm in the zone and I'm sitting there and I'm placing parts and I'm trying to keep my hand really steady, like 0402 components or smaller, I find that whenever I hit an edge, something sharp on my hand, I lose concentration. So I know the plastic looks, the tape looks a bit silly, but it's designed to be glued in place permanently. I just haven't done that yet.
So we've got some questions from the audience. First off, David Hortz, thank you so much for the super chat. David says, Makercast, thanks for bringing everyone together in one show. Love seeing all the different hosts and guests. It is great to run the show. Who's running it next week? Look, it's in the description. Unexpected, let's see. Maker Emma asks, is it a pumpkin?
It's not a pumpkin, Hound. No, it's not a pumpkin. I was going to say, but it's orange because there are very few, apart from maybe tantalum capacitors are kind of yellowy, but they don't make orange electronic components. So they're really easy to see contrast-wise. Like if it was black, I wouldn't be able to see black components when I'm picking them out. If it was white, I wouldn't be able to see LEDs when I pick them out. So I tried to find a color that was
everything will contrast with.
But contrast-wise was good. Yeah, that's why.
Eris Palm asks, is it hot air gun safe?
No, it's PLA. I don't hot air on it. I just assemble with it. If I'm doing any hot air, I use my trusty cork mat. So you can see lots of burn marks all the way over it. Yeah. But no, this is not for hot airing. Yeah, no, this is just for assembly.
Bolly says you should spin it, and you should spin it at full speed and do electronics component wheel of fortune.
I could. I'm not going to. No, I could. Look, I can spin this really fast. I'm gonna
do the parts stay in, or they go over the edge?
No, they stay in. No problem. No problem. They don't. It's real. The tolerances are really tight. I'd have to turn it upside down and spin it for the parts to come out. But
that's the most useful fidget spinner I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's fun. I have to say, when I'm sitting there working, I'll often keep spin. Like I can see my part coming around, but I'll spin it really fast and let it keep going. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
what prompted you to start working on this? Like, did you like reach a breaking point where like, that's it, I'm building a friggin' pick and place machine, or were you just like, it'd be kind of cool if I could organize my parts and not have to dump them straight in the table?
Right. So this is I built this for my when I launched my Tiny Pico campaign, because I had planned to hand assemble all the Tiny Picos that were backed on the campaign before it became a ridiculous number and I had to buy a pick and place machine. So it was actually designed to allow me to not have to get all the parts out all the time when I'm building Tiny Picos. So it was, the intent was to do a lot of production with it, but it turns out it became just a really good prototyping building system. And I've been using it, or my previous one, and now this one, been using it for, 18 months, like all the time. Like anytime I'm building a board that isn't on the pick and place machine, I'll be putting it on here. Whether I put it on top here or whether I put it next to it, I pick out all the parts from here, and I'm constantly refilling it from my shelf. I've got containers full of all the parts. So that was my reasoning, but ended up buying a pick and place machine, or several, and do most of my production on that now. Tor Selden says, could you put a stepper on it and program it to a certain chip order? Could you make it auto index? Well, that was my original design, and I had a working prototype of that, but I was having trouble with steppers overheating. But my original design, I had a touch interface, and you could either pick the part you wanted and it would rotate to that spot, or I wanted to do a pick list from Eagle, and it would actually present all the parts in order for me as I go. So I just hit next, and it would give me the next part as I'm building, which was kind of cool. But I find that I often change how I build a board over time. Like I optimize myself when I'm building. Like sometimes I won't go and pick the same part out 5 times in a row and place it in 5 places. Sometimes I'll pick 2 or 3 different parts. So, but I want to go back to that project. I've got a project bin up on the shelf that has some new parts, and I've even got I pulled out of one of my feeders, electric feeders. I've got a new pancake stepper that I want to try and see if I can get that project going again.
So you mentioned that some other people had built this project. That's something that doesn't happen very often. Like, how did that end up coming together? Like having people actually print it and make their own and then give you feedback?
Well, yeah. So on my video, I mean, I knew a lot of people wanted to make one of their own. I mean, they've been asking me for 18 months. I felt really bad that it took so long. But I actually said on my video when I released them, I said, like, if you do make one, hey, let me know, send me pictures and stuff. And, all over Twitter and in my Discord, people have been posting pictures that they've been making them, which has been awesome. And then people have been showing slight changes they've made for them. People have been forking the project. One of the things, like I designed this to print on a 200 by 200 bed printer, like my Prusa Mark III. But there are obviously people out there that have got slightly smaller printers, can only do 180. So some creative people have been cutting them up to print them in halves. I do want to release new files soon on my GitHub repository for it that I'm probably going to just release the step files. Right now, there's just STLs on there, but I need to clean up some stuff in them, and I'm going to release the step
Very
file
cool.
so people can go and hack them.
Zathrid Tech asks, what are tiny Picos?
Tiny Picos, this is a V2 Tiny Pico. These are a fully featured ESP32 development board that I designed to make.
Wireless.
So it's the smallest ESP32 still in the world, I think, with a fully featured board. So it's got obviously ESP32 with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, dual core, 240 megahertz. It's got onboard battery management, JST connector on the back. It's got extra PS RAM, and so my camera doesn't want to focus. And then I've also now released a USB-C version of the board. So I sell these, and you can grab them at Adafruit and Mauser and Crowd Supply, a whole bunch of other people around the world. Which leads me on to the new board that I released a video 3 days ago. What day? 4 days ago, Friday, my Friday. So this is called Tiny S2. So this is an ESP32 S2 version, I guess, of my Tiny Pico form factor. And the reason I'm making more boards with this form factor is I've got a whole range of shields and stuff that I've made for it, but the community have also been making projects and shields and add-on boards for the Tiny Pico. So we've kind of built a bit of an ecosystem around the board design.
Am I remembering this wrong, or did I see that on Adafruit when I was shopping for parts the other day?
Yeah, Adafruit stock it. There's quite a few stockers of it. So I've been making many thousands of these, which is why I bought a pick and place.
That makes sense. I haven't checked in on chat yet, but knowing those guys, there's probably one question they're asking a lot of. How does it stack up against the Teensy?
It's very different to a Teensy. Teensy is super fast, sure, 600 megahertz, I know, latest version, but it doesn't have any radios. So there's no Wi-Fi, there's no Bluetooth, not as much RAM. So yeah, not as much flash. I mean, there's 4 megabytes of flash on this. There's 4 megabytes of extra PS RAM, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. So they're for different projects. You know, if you want a really high-speed microcontroller board and all you want is raw processing power, Teensy's great. But if you want something that's, you know, an IoT connectable device, or you know, something with a lot of extra RAM, then ESP32 is a great way to go. So different MCUs for different projects. You know, there's no best MCU out there.
We're also getting questions. How does it stack up against the other Pico in the room?
The other Pico. Thanks, Mr. Stephen Ludgate. Again, look. So yeah, the Pico from Raspberry Pi Foundation. The board, it's terrible, but the chip.
Oh,
is
man, hot take.
No. The board is. It's just a chip on a board. It's got no features. It's got no reset button. It's got no battery management. It's got nothing. It's just a chip on a board, right? So the board I'm talking about is a pointless board, but the chip on it, the chip that they've designed is incredible. Like, it's a fully custom silicon dual core, you know, Cortex M0 Plus with a whole bunch of new features. So yeah, the chip is amazing, but the board itself is pretty lackluster.
So is there a Pico on the way? For
me, no, I'm not going to be playing with the Pico chip. I'm kind of sticking to the ESP ecosystem. That's kind of where my knowledge base is and my focus is.
I'm gonna totally tip I'm gonna show my power level as a dork here, but I was stoked to see a USB-C connector. Why are there no USB-C connectors on things?
Because people are reluctant to change, because most people have got hundreds of micro B cables, and USB-C connectors are really expensive, or cables. They're becoming cheaper. At the start, there was a lot of confusion. The USB consortium made a big mistake. They made a standard for USB-C that had a power data cable and then a power only cable. And that really confused a lot of people. And people were buying cables and they weren't working, right? Because they had no data capability, but you looked at the two cables and they looked identical, right? So they really messed up the launch of USB-C. It's much better now. I much prefer USB-C. I'm all Mac ecosystem. All of my machines are Thunderbolt connectors, so they've all got USB-C connectors.
I've heard a lot of people complain the USB-C connectors are hard to solder, but I don't think they're that hard to solder.
They're definitely harder. They've got a lot more pins, you know. I mean, a full spec USB-C connector's got 24 pins on it, and they're small and they're hard. They are. I mean, you can't hand solder those. You can almost hand solder a 16-pin connector, which is what this is. I'm not sure if you're able to see it. There's you can see at the bottom all the little pins. It's definitely harder than a 5-pin micro B connector. The connectors are also considerably bigger. I mean, if you look at the size difference of the two, you know, they take a lot more real estate. So like those boards are identical functionality wise, but my USB-C board is bigger just because of the size of the connector.
Is it crazy how small electronics are today that the difference in size between those two ports is like relevant?
Yeah. Well, for me it is, because it was about, you know, one of the features of my board was how small it was. And I've had to actually compromise and make it bigger just to get the connector on. But yeah, I prefer USB-C. I think it's a better standard. You can plug it any direction properly. I know you can get reversible micro B connectors, but they tend to fail after a while. Yeah, I prefer the format, but a lot of people are really kicking and screaming moving to USB-C.
I agree. If Ohancroft asks, will you be releasing the source file to the pick and place or just the STL and step files?
If you mean source files, like the Fusion 360, probably not. Probably just the step files, because you should be able to do whatever you need from the step files. The Fusion, the design wasn't made using like parameter-based stuff where you can just type values in. It was built from scratch. So I think the Fusion 360 files will be quite confusing for people to work from. But the step files should allow you to modify the shape in any way you want in any tool. Yeah.
So where should people go to find out more about the Tiny Pico, find out more about your projects, and just see what you're up to?
So yeah, my YouTube channel, obviously, I cover most of my projects on there. I've got a shop where I sell all my products, unexpectedmaker.com/shop. Wow, couldn't even say that. But as you mentioned, there are quite a lot of people out there, like distributors and resellers, that have my products as well. So
very nice. Do you personally have any projects coming down the line that use the Tiny Pico?
I'd make a lot of projects that use the Tiny Pico. I'm working on one right now that uses my Tiny Pico Nano. This is my Nano.
There's a smaller one.
Yeah, this is so it's castellated edges. It's designed to go on a carrier board, so it doesn't have header pins.
Oh my!
And so yeah, I've got a project that's sitting on my desk. How funny! My name is covering it up. The project. I have it. Oh, I don't know if I can. Let me just lift it up. I have a project on my desk right now here that has a Nano on the back of it. I can't believe.
Tiny Pico Nano. So the 3 ways of saying small in the same board.
Yes, except the Pico part doesn't mean small on this board. It's because it's got a Pico D4 ESP32 on it. So it was a tiny ESP32. Right? But a lot of people don't realize it's a Pico chip. So they think I'm saying small 3 times, yeah, which I'm not, but that's okay. You know what they say?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Seems really cool. I got to get me one of those pick and place dealios. Man, yeah, I just end up sneezing and blowing all the components into the void.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
So really cool. Okay, Becky has been waiting patiently for this entire stream, and we have all been waiting patiently to see what the hell is that behind. Like, what kind of crazy sewing machine is that?
It is not a sewing machine. This is my computerized embroidery machine, and I'll tell you what, it sat in my cabinet for like more than a year before I did anything fun with it because there was limited software options. So I'm excited to share it like more publicly or widely than I was, because now you can use open source tools for free to make cool embroidery designs. So using processing, if you're familiar with that intro to programming tool. So the video I want to talk about is a project I made for my friend Estephanie's birthday. We did a birthday maker gift swap, and I made her an embroidery with some of her favorite things. While I talk about it, I'll zoom in and show you it working because I didn't stage a demo here to not show you the demo. So it basically takes a program in it from the USB port on the side of like a little USB flash drive that goes in there, and cue it up with the right color thread. And when I hit this button, it'll start to embroider the next sort of frame of the image.
Please tell me that thing uses G-code.
I wish, right? No. It does not use G-code. You're supposed to like stop and trim the tail before you go too far. It doesn't use G-code. It uses these proprietary embroidery machine formats. And my machine uses like a PES file, for example. And there's different brands use different file types. So the processing library allows you to export a bunch of different types of embroidery files so that no matter what machine you have, it'll be ready to go. So in just a little bit here, we'll have some lightning bolts at the top of our birthday cake design. So I don't know if it's distractingly loud. I could also stop it at any time if you want me to.
It's audible.
I like how it starts slowly. You know,
Yeah,
like a horror movie.
Yeah, I think that's because like if there are going to be any issues with it, like it wants you to see it right away. And you're also supposed to stop it after a few stitches just to cut off the tail thread. So here,
You mean a computerized embroidery machine can have issues?
So this thing is just as, thanks Ian for that cue. This thing is just as annoying / complicated as like a 3D printer or a CNC like ShopBot or whatever. And let's see. So here we go. We just now we did this lightning bolt. Let me focus the camera. Sorry. We did this lightning bolt just now, but I did to prepare for the show. This is a reproduction of the embroidery I made for Stephanie with her 2 cats and this little Texas bit and chocolate cake, which is her favorite. And then I put LEDs on it. So there's like 2 parts to this project. The embroidery machine is cool. I could show some of the design files to give you an idea of how I put together this, got to that point. I started out in Illustrator. So what you're seeing now is the design that I made in Illustrator using like, the pen tool and all that fun stuff. And to prepare it for the embroidery machine or prepare it for the processing library, I had to sort of separate it out into 2 color layers. So each of these pictures is like one color of the graphic, with white being the embroidered part and black being the empty part. So I have like one image for each layer. And then in the embroidery software, in the processing sketch, I can kind of take in each one of those images at a time, choose a stitch style. So like, do I want it to be a vector path that traces concentrically around it? Or do I want it to fill it all in? And like, do I want to randomize those stitches or make them all really closely aligned? Like which angle? You can see like the cat's faces have stitches at different angles from one another. So there's a lot to play around there with the code. So this is like what the preview looks like out of processing. And then I'm able to feed the machine one color at a time to execute on the design. So here's what it looks like.
Tug asks, are there any stitch limitations?
Yeah, like you could, if you set the stitch like density too high, it's possible to mess it up, right? Like make it so it jams your thread, or you have all the same physical requirements you do of when you're using the embroidery machine without a special processing library, which is like your stitch settings can make your like you have to get the tension right. But yeah, if you bunch it up too much, then it can get tangled. Likewise, if you try to do stitches that are like far away from each other, you can end up with like threads everywhere. So yeah, there's ways for it not to be optimal. And then once I did the embroidery, I made a 3D printed frame. This is from
I like the tongue and groove construction.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't design this. This is from Geeky Faye Arts. She has like
I know Geeky Faye. She also does a podcast.
Right. She made this sort of parameterized 3D printed picture frame. Here's what the final piece looks like. I added some candle flicker LEDs for the birthday candles. You can see them sticking out here a little bit, and then some electronics on the back and the side to. Here's what the LEDs look like on the back. And then I added a touch board. This is the Bear Conductive touch board with the screws that come in from the outside of the enclosure. Just make it so you can touch them and trigger the sounds that are on board with the SD card. So this thing plays music. It plays Happy Birthday. It plays like a bunch of funny sounds that I tried to find to make Stephanie laugh when she plays it. And it also has a real-time clock. Over here is a real-time clock module, so that it does plays extra special sounds on.
It's got to be one of the
birthday.
most advanced embroidery projects I've ever seen.
Well, it is, but it's also like
it's got features.
Yeah, it has features, but it also and these are all the images. I'm finished with showing these images. Thank you. But you could substitute this idea with like a photo or like a CNC wood carving, or it doesn't have to be. The output is embroidery, but it could easily be something else.
Barris Tug asks, have you tried conductive thread applications?
Yeah, the reason I have this embroidery machine, Brother actually gave it to me because I am sort of famous for using conductive thread, right? Brother gave it to me to play around with some conductive thread projects, but it's like so much work for so little payoff so far that I haven't really found. That's obviously not the application I came out swinging with my embroidery machine, because it's not the first thing I needed to do to learn about it, and it's not the easiest thing to do. But yeah, you should be able to put conductive thread in the bobbin of the thing and make some paths that way. I've also seen, not myself made, but have seen some cool embroidered like touch pianos. Helen?
It seems like we have a question from the cast itself.
Yeah. Helen has something to say.
Helen, you're muted.
Just because I've just started using this new conductive embroidery thread and it's blown my mind, and it's actually not bad. It's by Madeira. I don't know if you've used that yet.
Oh yeah, this thread is Madeira brand.
It's the Madeira
making
brand.
The conductive thread now. That's news to me.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, they've got 2 varieties of conductive thread. It's really difficult to get. Like, you have to email somebody called Jan. Like, I'll send you the details.
That doesn't sound so hard.
Hey kid, you want to buy some?
I have a feeling that Jan will give it to me if I ask her.
Yeah, I think so. It's really good though, and I've used it in my sewing machine. It's just like I've got a simple Singer, but I've used it in both the top and bottom threads.
That's promising.
And I've not been able to. And it sews like a dream. Like,
sounds great.
So
I'll have to try it. Do you know if it's if it's stainless steel or what kind of metal it's made out of?
It's silver. Silver. I
can't. My heart has been broken. Helen, hasn't your heart been broken by silver conductive thread one too many times? Like, I make a project and then like 6 months later, it's like, sorry, I'm oxidized now, and I don't.
However, I reserve my, but I've got my, I don't know if you've seen my kind of purring tentacle body pillow thing.
Yeah.
I did that the first draft of that 18 months ago, and it doesn't look rubbish.
And it still works okay, and
it still works totally fine
to it, and it doesn't show signs. I've made things out of silver conductive thread and they've died. And
maybe it's not silver. Do you know what? Like, I don't know what it's made of. But it works. It feels like normal thread. It's the best conductive thread that I've come across so far.
Cool. I'm starting to work on some conductive thread projects again after like being burned on it for a really long time. I got really burned out on it because it's not it's not as nice as people want it to be in general. So.
Yeah, but this Madeira one, I would definitely.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Becky, can I ask you a question? Sorry, I know that you got the machine from Brother, but do they have machines that you can put multiple colored thread in at the same time? So
yes.
That
exists.
That exists. Right, taking them out.
Yeah, there's one. I teach at SVA, School of Visual Arts here in New York City, one class, and the lab I teach in has a machine that will hold 4 at once, 4 different colors, for instance. But they make them that'll hold even more than that. I don't remember what brand it is.
Okay,
so we've got some questions from the audience. Bricked Pixel asks, what is the best conductive fabric? Are there any that are intentionally resistive for warmth?
They're all resistive because they can't be not resistive. Non-resistive conductive fabric is chainmail.
When would someone ever need that principle?
Just for Ian's thing. But no, I don't know. Ask me a question about the project. I don't want to talk about conductive textiles because there aren't any in my project.
Very well. All right. We have 2 questions that kind of go together. Bali asks, Becky, what model machine do you own? And Nanoi Master says, what software do you use?
So this is the PE 770. There's a newer one now that you could get, I'm sure. And again, this one was given to me for free, so I can't tell you if it's like the best value one or not, but it seems pretty good. What was the second part of the question? What the software do I use? Okay, so
what software do you use?
I'm using processing and Adobe Illustrator to make. I made the design that I showed, this one, on Adobe Illustrator, and then I used the new Embroider open source free processing library to convert my Illustrator drawing into the embroidery file.
Is that easy to use for people who are already familiar with using Illustrator? Is the workflow from drawing to embroidery tricky?
It's good if you've done any computer programming at all. But if you've never done computer programming at all, processing is hard to learn. So like you have to know what processing is and sort of how to use it before it becomes an easy tool to pull out of your pocket. For me, it's like, oh, I learned how to make Java for the very first time in processing in college. So it's like a tool that was easy for me to pick up. But so easy is relative based on your experience. But yes, executing the sample code from the library and the whole tool chain is like very beginner friendly. It just might take you a whole weekend if you don't have any of those tools in your belt already.
Dennis asks, did you have to mess with the firmware on the machine?
No, I used the little like the interface here to like load. I just put the file on the SD card or your USB flash drive and put it in the machine and loaded it up. So I didn't have to do any mods to the embroidery machine itself.
I guess I should ask if it works with Octoprint.
Ha 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 ha. That would be cool, right? So the processing library is open source. So I bet if you were like a time-lapse nerd and you wanted to somehow put in a setting where between colors or something, because that's what I know Octoprint's like a management thing, but you can also do the cool time lapses with Octoprint, right? Where it like doesn't look like it's moving. I suppose you could mod the processing library to move the embroidery around, maybe.
Sounds like some sounds pretty interesting. Now my mind is spinning up with like ways to abuse an embroidery machine.
Mine too, trust me.
What else have you worked on this month?
Right. So if you can find the video about this on my YouTube channel and see the process, which is like all the steps of the design and the different machines and stuff. But the project I'm working on right now, that's not like documented anywhere except my Instagram.
Ooh, behind the scenes.
Yeah, this is a sneak preview. Is a 3D printing project I'm working on for ham radio. So there's this really common tropey project you can make called a tape measure Yagi antenna. And so I have my antenna my draft antenna is behind me on the wall. You can see it over here. This PVC pipe with a rainbow of 3D printed fittings on it that hold a piece of your standard metal tape measure. And so if you have them at all the correct heights, and you have the cable coming out of the bottom, you can hook it up to your ham radio, or in my case, I also have the little software-defined radio USB thing, so you can use the fun software on your computer to look at it. You can listen to satellites, or like Helen's friend, you could listen to sounds bounced off the moon. So that's
how you add somebody. You bounce it off the moon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I earth-mooned, right? Because it's mooned, but like Earth, it's called Earth, Moon, Earth. Or anyway, so I want to like listen to the ISS when it passes by, and I also want to try making ham radio contacts further away than I would be able to without a satellite. Also, just like space is cool, and learning about satellites is cool. So this project, although it's a very simple maker project, like this component was really easy. I made it in Tinkercad, so it's like nothing's complicated here. But people usually make it out of like a piece of wood and some nails or something. So this is like a high-tech upgrade. I'm interested in making the simple project for the high-tech result of being able to communicate with satellites. It's like an emergency preparedness / just like science experimentness.
What do the ISS and the satellites have to say?
Yeah, the ISS, well, you can talk to astronauts sometimes, but you can talk to other people who are using the repeater. But there's also a, what's it called? Slow scan TV station on the ISS. So if you record the audio, you can you can assemble it into a TV frames of a TV broadcast. I don't know what the broadcast is of, though.
Yeah, no, I'm curious. I hope it's people just messing around in zero gravity.
I would like to think so too. But
what about the satellites?
They're repeaters basically. So like anything you hear on a normal ham radio repeater, you could hear on one of these satellites. I'm zooming in on my antenna so you can see it more clearly. So it's not like they're broadcasting like a radio station or anything, but you can make contacts with people who are communicating with that satellite. So, for instance, I could probably talk to Ian in Cleveland, for instance. We could find a satellite that passes over, is visible from me and him at the same time, and then try to make a contact.
I want to check out this slow scan feed of the ISS video. I didn't know they did that, and I hope that it's like a mukbang eating video where they're like eating all of the astronaut food.
What is up, folks? It is I, an astronaut, live in the ISS. It's your boy playing Fortnite with a 2-minute ping.
I think that the slow scan TV signal sounds really fun. I had never heard what it sounded like before I did research for this project to see, like, what do I expect to hear when I point my antenna at the ISS? It sounds like aliens, but nope, it's just humans with a TV signal. So this project is just like my take on a classic. It's like it's like Becky's chocolate cake recipe, but like Becky's tape measure Yagi antenna. And hopefully my little 3D printed coupler is the secret sauce that makes it like nice. And it's also going to be a rainbow. So it's like a very inclusive Yagi antenna.
Nozetian asks, can one do all this radio antenna 3D printing Yagi stuff without a license?
Yeah, you can listen all you want. You don't need a license except to transmit. So the first step of this is to make a 3 element antenna just to listen. And then once I've successfully listened, and only then will I be interested in trying to transmit myself. So you don't need a license to listen. I only have my tech license, which is the intro level license. So I would be able to broadcast once I have that ability, but I'm still a couple experiments away from that yet. And you don't have to talk at all. If you don't want to talk, then you never need a license.
Sure. It's pretty cool stuff.
If you want to learn how to get your license, though, I have a video on my channel about that.
Maybe. I do have a tape measure. I do have a 3D printer.
All you need to get started is one of these. You could just like I don't remember how much these cost now, like $25 or something, and you can listen to your local repeaters and decide if you even want to get into ham radio, if the people who are around you are interesting sounding.
So do you know how the antenna works? Because it's kind of an odd shape. Usually I'm thinking more like stick or squiggle.
Well, if you think about the shape of the waves, right? And you're used to seeing an antenna that's like this shape, right? And that's going to be able to intersect with waves that are coming at it from every lateral direction. If I do it this way, then it's more sensitive to waves that are coming in like perpendicular to the antenna, right? So this one, you point it at space, kind of like how it's pointed up against the wall here, so that the waves it's sensitive to are coming down at you from space. You want to have something perpendicular to the waves to catch them. That's the simplest way I could explain it. I'm also not very good at radio science.
Fair enough. See, Tiffany Vincent says, Becky, your video on ham is super inspiring. I ended up getting my license after watching it.
Oh, right on. Woo woo.
No, rad. My grandpa was a ham. He had an unbelievable setup.
Well, I like to say lately, after getting my second one, hobbies that require licenses are just that much more fun. I also have my motorcycle license, so those are the two licenses I received as an adult. Where I'm like, combine them. It's more fun. It's more fun of a hobby because I'm licensed.
You get to show people how cool you are.
Yeah.
I've got a forklift license I always pull out of my pocket when someone asks for a license. Just because you can.
Yeah.
I whip that out the all-you-can-eat buffet. What can one do? What does a forklift license enable?
You can operate a forklift.
I guess you could operate a forklift.
Isn't that good enough? Like, that's awesome.
They're fun. You could play giant Jenga.
With a forklift.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'm writing that down. That's an upcoming video.
You might need another licensed forklift driver to play with you.
Yeah, it's no fun to play Jenga by yourself, I'd imagine.
Becky, Zach, Clem, somebody here get a forklift license. We're playing Jenga.
I have an F license, which enables me to drive a tractor and heavy machinery and stuff.
Nice.
And tanks.
Oh, so that's even better than that's like above a forklift license.
No, it's a separate thing. I'm not allowed to drive a forklift, but in my very old job, I had to drive a forklift, and when I usually they pay for the license, and I never got that. And when they refused to pay for the license, okay, I'm not touching a forklift ever again.
So Becky, what's the future of that project? When will we see the video?
Yeah, I don't know when it works. When it's not cold outside. It's so cold outside. So this is like an outdoor-ish kind of project, and I'm like, well, it's February. It's also like actively snowing outside, and there's like an accumulation of snow. So it's a little bit weather dependent, but sometime this spring, March or later, you will see the video on my channel. Yeah, and I'll release the design files and all that stuff.
Got some other videos to hype up, or should people just like, comment, and subscribe?
People just you never. I already gave you the sneak preview. No more sneak previews. Everything else could be a surprise to you. Just come over and subscribe.
Fine. Links to all that stuff are also down below. Anything else you want to pump up? You want to direct people to? Just my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. All of Zach's lovely subscribers on Zach's meteoric rise. Please remember us, Zach.
Becky, can I add your video on that embroidery in the picture frame was the first time that I saw flicker LEDs, and I was like blown away at how good they looked. So it's worth checking out that video just for the flicker LEDs alone.
We did jump past that. There's no microcontroller, right? Like that's just an LED.
There's a not for the LEDs. The LEDs are just wired to power, and they're the candle flicker LEDs because that's the easiest way to set something always on. I wanted that project to sort of be, I could stop at every level because actually when you do a collab with another YouTuber, you're beholden to some kind of deadline. You can't just push it back for yourself. So I'm thinking to myself when I'm making it, well, if the embroidery machine doesn't go really well, I'll still have time to just like hand embroider something. And like, that will be the only gift. And
then a great way to build projects.
Right. And then when the embroidery worked out and I was like, oh, well, this is already done and I don't have to send it to her for like another month. I'll like keep adding things. So then I added the LEDs and I was like, well, if I only add one electronic part, it's just these candle flicker LEDs. And if that goes well, and I have more time, then I'll add the rest. So that's why I chose the candle flicker LEDs, because I was hoping that personally and projecting to others who might want to do a project like this, that you could sort of adjust the level of investment you have in the project and based on what materials you have and what function you want. If you don't want the sound part of this project, you don't need the touchboard at all. The LEDs would still do the same thing.
Sounds cool. I'm increasingly tempted to get an embroidery machine.
You can borrow mine, Zach.
Oh, not. I'll have to do it soon. We're moving across the country.
Well, you can. I know, but you can also. I mean, you can send me things and I print them out. And
I'm gonna send you everything to embroider.
Do you know what I mean? Like to try before you buy. I'm more than happy to take tests from other people to experiment with.
I gotta think of something. Gotta think of something amusing to abuse that with. Anyways, thanks very much. Got some really two really neat projects to see next to each other. I'm going to be honest.
You never know Becky Stern channel is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Very nice. Clem, how are things holding on your end? Do you think we'll be able to make it through?
It looks like I finally have a connection, so I make it pretty quick, so everything gets its share.
You're having a bit of trouble with the snow.
Yeah, that's like crazy out there. Okay, video thing. I do videos on a channel called Element 14 Presents on YouTube, which is a channel that a lot of makers post to. We're about 10 or 12 people that make regular videos there. So you get every week a new project, and some of them are for me. And the latest project that I put on there is like this is a normal multimeter. You all know that. And this is the multimeter I made. And it's exactly the size of the screen. And difference between these two is they have all the basic functions, of course, but the small one also has Wi-Fi, and it's meant to go on a breadboard. So you use it with your breadboard, just stick in the leads that you normally use, and you don't need alligator clips and stuff like that, and you can use your phone as the screen. So you can access all the readings on your phone and log them and do whatever you want. And of course, it's fully open source and stuff. And it's self-contained with a little battery in there. And yeah, so.
But how good is a continuity test beep? Because that's the mark of a truly excellent multimeter.
This one doesn't beep. It's a thing that I had to cut for size reasons, but it has USB-C. So
that
at
is
least
what you have
there's
to do
that.
To make everything fit.
Yeah. So I had to cut some corners. So I would love to have an external ADC in there, but it has no external ADC. So the resistance measurements are not that good because in here is an ESP32S2. And yeah, the other measurements like current and voltage are done with an INA 219, which there is an Adafruit library for, so it's pretty easy to program that thing in Arduino. Did I mention it has USB-C?
Oh,
yeah,
fancy.
Yeah.
Is this a product or is this an open source project that people can build themselves?
It is an open source project. Everybody can build it themselves, and it's like leaps ahead of being a product. Maybe it will turn into one someday, but at the moment, build it, improve on the code, share it, do whatever you want with it. It's not really in a production state.
Chad is pretty frothy about this one. I'm going to link, if I haven't already done it, I'm going to link the multimeter in the description.
Yeah, the video. And you can you get all the files and the code, and you can directly order the PCB from Isla. There's also a link, like when you go at the video, there's a link to the Element 14 community, and there's everything you need to make your own. Also here on the breadboard, I have a 555 circuit, because we were talking about those.
My favorite.
It's a useful chip. I find uses for it every day. So, and because Seon is not the only one who does ESP32 S2 things, I also do things. And this is my very breadboard-friendly board. It's called IoT, which is German for egg OT, or egg of things, or it's a play on word of IoT. Also, it says the Yoke of the Project on there. So it's a dev kit powered by an ESP32S2. It also has USB-C, and that's the good one. If you want a really good USB-C port, Molex makes this one, and that's the most sturdy that I know. Really good. Special thing about this here is you can plug it in any way you want, and you can assemble it in two ways with the pins up, down, and the buttons up, down. So it's not only usable for you, but also for me, because I'm a lefty. And
lefty squad.
Oh, you're also a lefty. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, see that mouse? Mouse is right here.
So yeah, there's like a dev board that you can assemble the way you want it. So the lead sticks out that way or that way, no matter how you want it. And it's very breadboard friendly, because I was really annoyed by the original dev kit that Espressive provides, and that doesn't even really fit on a breadboard. So you can't really use that. But that one is awesome. And I made some more of these. And because I make a lot of stuff, and some of that stuff is also sellable, and I have a huge collection of vintage parts like this here.
Ooh, and that is quite the tube.
Yeah, and like this thing that came from an old telephone. And I have a pretty big collection of project parts that I will probably never use, but I'm pretty good at finding these things. So I'm starting a web shop later that year where you can get all the crazy stuff that you can't find anywhere else. And also the normal stuff and my dev kits and all that sort of jazz. And now for the bigger thing, and I know I've read in the chat that someone from Marlin Firmware is here. I try to share my screen. I hope that works.
Well, while we wait, Veldar brings up an excellent point. An egg of things plus a breadboard equals a sandwich.
Oh yeah,
an electronic salad sandwich.
There's the best thing I haven't told you. The package for the IoT, like for the egg of things, is a pen. So you have a little plastic pen where everything goes in, the parts and stuff that you assemble, and just shrink wrap, so you get your egg in a frying pan, like a breakfast.
Please tell me you use the reflow skillet method to manufacture them.
I use a reflow oven. I have done that in a pan before I had that one.
Yeah, baked eggs.
Eggs, bacon, egg. Now, if you poach the circuit together, I'll be impressed.
Oh, that would be really crazy. So I think you can see my screen now.
Yes, there we go.
Oh yeah, there it is. So what is that thing? So
looks like KiCad to me.
Yeah, it is KiCad. in a previous MakerCast, we saw Timon School or Professor Sparkles show his Pionora, the compute module for carrier board that has the pinout like an Arduino Uno. And people got crazy about that. And it's a really awesome project. And I was very impressed by this guy, of course, because he's awesome. And so I said, I need to do something with a compute module, and there is like multiple CNC type projects on my workbench, a laser and a 5-axis CNC and stuff. And then I thought, if I call that, I make a CNC or make a 3D printer or whatever from scratch, then everybody will yell, well, you didn't do everything from scratch. You put together parts. So I made my own board, which has, I don't have the 3D files for it, but this is where the compute module 4 goes. Of course, with camera connector and SD card and Ethernet. And that feeds into, here goes an ESP32S2. Here's an Atmega 2560. Here's a 328P. And a lot of stepper drivers. These are compatible with all the TMC drivers, the fancy silent ones. And you can also hook up external drivers. That was these things are for. And yeah, this thing runs Malin, Gerbil, and Smoothieware, I think. Yeah, and it should, in theory, if I exchange that processor, able to run RepRap firmware, so whatever you need, and also Octoprint on the CM4. And so that would be the free printer variant. So you'd have like a modern 3D printer board with all the stuff on board, and Raspberry Pi already on there, so you can run Octoprint all in once.
Does that say camera on the silk screen?
Yeah. And because when you have Octoprint, you want to be able to watch your prints via Octoprint. So you use the Raspberry Pi camera. So here's a connector for the Raspberry Pi camera. And here's a little Easter egg. And we also got HDMI on here.
HDMI and a 3D printer, now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, and now we're cooking. And here's a USB port, and here's USB-C again. That's basically for programming that ESP. And there are a lot of chips in there, and usually you have only like a Pi, and then you have the chip that runs the 3D printer. But what I want to use this thing for is not less like a 3D printer would be used, more like industrial machinery, or maybe if you have an old CNC mill from somewhere or some other heavy equipment, you can rip out all the guts, put this thing inside, because you can make this act like a traditional CNC controller, which means real-time controls, and like there's something in between the G-code sender and the actors, so you can alter the commands and inject different commands in real time. And that is what this ESP32S2 is for, because you can make like a pendant or a control box for that, connected over Wi-Fi to this module, and that injects the G-code or alters it in between what comes streamed from the G-code sender on the Raspberry Pi to the processor that does the timing for the stepper motors.
So Billy Rubin, who was a guest star on my last episode, is in our comments section, and she is losing her mind over this thing. Meanwhile, YTFP Chris says you need to add another relay to switch the coffee pot on.
Oh, that's already here. Yeah. You have a lot of
everything
on there. You have pretty much everything here. You can,
yes.
That's for heaters and stuff, and coolant and whatever you want. You have thermistors over here.
Yes, the coffee pot, the 5th axis.
That's for free thermistors. I haven't routed anything yet. As you see, the stuff with HDMI, that takes some time to route correctly. Also, some of these parts will get exchanged. But yeah, it's like usually on a 3D printer, even if you have a very sophisticated system, if you want to like say, stop now because something is going wrong, or pause it, it usually finishes the command and then it does the pause. I've shown them in a previous video on Element 14 where I like upgraded a really janky old 3D printer to modern standards and used another Arduino to inject code into a running program, so you can like make it in the middle of a sequence, when you think the 3D printer is losing track or maybe losing step, you can just press a button, it rehomes and goes on from there. So it actually doesn't really know that I have injected a code. It's like a parasite on there. That's the same principle. And when you have like big industrial CNC machines, usually you have direct control. So there's usually a PC that is connected to the CNC controller over the parallel port, and you can alter every single pulse. So if I put on pause, it will halt immediately in the second. That is very handy, because when a CNC machine rams into stuff or something goes wrong, usually shit hits the fan, and you don't want that to happen. And on most boards that you can get hobby grade, you can't really do that. It executes the command and then it stops. And on this, you can basically inject any code you want at any place, or you can even process it, like translate from a Marlin G code to a Gerbil code or whatever you want. If your machine tends to speak like really crazy G codes, old-timey stuff, you can do that. But you could also just use the enable step direction signals from off the board, or you can use the onboard drivers or external ones.
So I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second to remind the audience that Clem is going to be our last. Clem is our last guest today. So if you have any questions, not just for him, but for anyone else participating in this, now is an excellent time to ask them. So Clem, where's the project at? Is this something that people can buy? Are you still testing it? Is it still just a schematic?
It's basically like the same thing Timon said last time. I've worked on this for the last 2 days. So
that's 2 days of work? Yeah,
that's 2 days of work.
Wow. I'm so impressed.
Clem, are you talking Earth days, or is there something else?
he's talking about pandemic days. Those are actually
it's pandemic days. I'm pretty much locked in my cellar. Yeah.
Still,
there's a big CNC machine and wants a board, so yeah, I started designing. But the thing is, this will be like a big video on the Element 14 Presents channel, upcoming this year, and once it's in a better state and tested and stuff. And then I plan to make this turn this into something that you could actually sell. But the use case is pretty specialized, so I don't expect to sell crazy amounts. But maybe it's like targeted for people that either want to convert old weird equipment or people that buy their own machines. So that is basically like, it's not easy to build a CNC lathe with standard components nowadays. And that one would be easier. So building a CNC lathe, that's better with that one. But I don't expect people to go crazy about it. I hope to sell a few, but I want to get this in a state where I can actually get certification and stuff for that.
So are you going to install it in one of your own printers? Are you going to build something around it?
I have 3 machines. Here's a tiny mill, a manual mill that will be converted to CNC. Oh. Then I've got a little diode laser cutter with 80 by 100 centimeters that I built, which is my main purpose for it is to have a machine that exactly marks holes and cut locations. So it doesn't really cut because it's just a little diode laser, but it marks all the perfect locations in my design, and then I can drill it all manually.
I see a Delta printer too.
Yeah, that's a prototype from a Kickstarter in 2015 or something. And then there's a 5-axis CNC across the room that I'm pretty much building out of leftover project parts from a previous job.
That sounds like a 3-day project.
Oh, I expect that to be a month project, a few months of project. So those are the 3 machines that this board should drive. If it does all 3 of them, then I'm happy with it. If it does more of it, then yeah. Oh, and it's.
What's the plan? Are you going to install it in the first one, rip it out, install it in the second one, or are you going to make?
No, I make multiples of those.
Nice.
I'm pretty nervous about the assembly because it has 173 parts.
It's going to take a few minutes.
Yeah, it will take a few minutes. Yeah.
If only there
But-
were some sort of tray that you could put all your parts in that made it really easy to rotate it around and find the exact one you're looking for.
You mean like that one?
That'd be pretty sweet.
I'm waiting on the bearing.
Aha, I see. That's pretty neat. So oh, there we go. I feel like I've seen that one before. So this video is going on Element 14. Is there any videos that you're making specifically for your own channel, or are you sticking with E14 for now?
So there's the thing, I had like my grabs with YouTube and its policies, and yeah, everybody loves YouTube and the stuff they do. So I have mirrored my old videos all on Odyssey/library, so they're backed up in the blockchain and everybody can watch them without any commercials. Over there, channel is @MayaMakes, like it says here. And yeah, you can watch all the 200 something videos on there. But now my main video gig is doing stuff on Element 14 Presents, because it allows me to just build stuff that I want and don't have to worry about views and other things. It's more about building cool stuff like that.
It's a pretty cool workshop you got there too.
Yeah.
A lot more machine tools than I can fit in my place.
It's much more tiny than you think.
So here in New York, there's no time for anything. So we've had a few super chats. Adalberto Neto, thank you very much. He says, amazing live. You guys should invite Integza. He's an amazing YouTuber and maker from Portugal, and very funny too. You just might.
And he does really, really dangerous stuff with turbines, and I love it.
Sounds fun. The Wallaby, thank you so much for the $10. Thanks so much for supporting the channel and the EFF. Ben Bradley has a question for everyone. Where the hell do you get a Raspberry Pi Pico? Every place seems to.
I haven't got one.
Did you? I don't have one either. Does DigiKey still have them?
I bought one from Spark. I bought 3 from SparkFun like the second I heard about them.
Yeah.
But
They only made
Micro Center. I think Micro Centers sometimes have them.
Micro Center. You just got to set yourself up with the back in stock alerts so that you from wherever, from all of them, right? From all the different places.
So you can jump on those $4.
I tend to check DigiKey. People don't think of DigiKey because their history, like they only started carrying like easy to recognize maker stuff in the last couple years, but they've never had any purchasing limits. That was something that the other places have. So maybe they're all out of stock because someone bought 50,000 of them from DigiKey. But that's where I look. Well, that's where I look when I think nobody else has thought of it.
Ian, we have a question directed at you. Let's see. Electron Ash asks, have you ever done any Tesla coil shows in the UK?
In the UK, no, but there's an amazing group in the UK where on top of their Tesla coils, they've built insulated platforms that 2 performers stand on top of, and they sort of do this lightning sword fight with each other, and they're amazing. So I don't think we can break into the UK audience because you've already got such an amazing, talented group there. But we're always welcome to entertain invites.
Hey, Ian, I was going to ask you before, do you have to get special permits when you put on a show, like in the public?
Oh, we definitely need an event permit, and depending on the venue, we might need a fire permit because technically we're making plasma. They usually don't know what to do with us, and so when we talk to the fire chief, we show them our safety plan, which is just a drawing we made, and it says, hey, the sparks, the maximum they can be is 15 feet long, so we keep the audience with these barricade fences 30 feet away, which we'll call a 2x safety factor. And they're happy enough to know that there's some safety that's been thought of.
Okay, cool.
I have a question for Clem and Seon about the ESP32S2. Maybe this is a selfish question, but somebody's got to have this question. I always use the ESP8266 with my students as an intro to IoT board, but my lab just turned off 2.4 gigahertz. Will the S2 be easy enough to use for beginner students taught by me next September?
I think it's easier.
Libraries available for it, for porting common code, and general ease of comparison to ease of use to the regular ESP32.
You know, it's only 2.4 gigahertz still. There's no 5 gigahertz ESP32.
I thought the S2 had 5 on it.
No.
That's the whole reason I'm asking. Never mind then.
No, but it's easier because you have native USB on there, so you don't have to have a serial chip for programming.
Okay.
You can do it directly, like on this one. Just plug it in and upload the code directly. You can run MicroPython on there, so that should be easier for your students.
Yeah. There's no MicroPython.
Do you have a recommendation for anything that runs on 5 gigahertz? Is there anything?
There are some. I think STM32 have got a new chip coming, but that's not really available and be really expensive. There are some. I think MediaTek have got an embedded ARM with Wi-Fi that does 2.4 and 5, but there's no development boards out there for them, and there's no ecosystem in Arduino or anything.
So I'm going to send this video to the IT person who's in charge of telling me I can't have 2.4 gigahertz as evidence to say, sorry, I need 2.4 gigahertz in my class.
Why would they turn it off?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Take one of these and make your own access point.
Yeah, right. I might just run. I don't know.
But,
anyway,
like I have
moving on.
There are
I have
plenty,
a
of
USB variant of that. Plug that in, make your own access point, plug that into and connect it to the router.
People are asking me to
And
talk
you have
about
your
my
own.
projects.
Zach, what's up
Zach
next?
I don't know, Zach. Have you actually said it out loud? What are you working on right now?
Oh,
Do you actually make projects, Zach?
Well,
I didn't know.
my intention. I don't want to draw any of the attention away from the guests because I get to talk about my projects in this channel every week.
I was implying your personal project that you're working on right now that you haven't talked. Like you're busy because whatever.
We got the move.
Yeah, the move. Yeah.
Yes, Voidstar Lab is moving. We are Brooke and I, along with the workshop, are moving from New York City to Colorado. We're going to be near Denver and Boulder. Yeah, it's going to be sweet. We have our new place is like 4 times as big, and the lab's going to be free and enormous, and we can like shoot rockets and fly drones and stuff. So it's going to be rad. We're moving at the end of the month, but you're going to see the schedule falling apart for weeks before and after. Yeah, that's going to be fun. It's going to be a 3-hour. It's going to be a 3-day road trip, and it's going to represent the first time I've ever moved the entire workshop. Only moved pieces of it.
Zach, can I just confirm publicly, you are going to launch rockets inside your workshop in your new place?
I mean, if it's raining outside.
Okay, good. Everyone heard that.
It's more that like there are tons of different projects that you just can't build in the city, and if you have space and you got space and like airspace, I suppose you can do all kinds of options. It also means that I'm not going to be so ridiculously limited on how much stuff we have. Like right now, I've got basically the two resin printer and the 2 FDM printers. I got my soldering stuff, and that's pretty much it. I can't really hold more, but I've been told that Colorado is very flammable. Don't do rockets. So we'll have to try something else. Nerf blasters. I haven't been able to do Nerf blasters because I have to literally clear out the entire hackerspace just to shoot them. But yeah, we'll have a lot of stuff going on. That's the big announcement. But some other fun stuff this month. Actually, I should have shown it today, but haven't had a lot of time in the schedule. We're going to be making the most expensive project I've ever built. This thing is so expensive that it actually involves the most expensive object I've ever owned. That is going to be fun. Also finished a 3D print for another video that used almost half a spool. A lot of neat stuff going on here. Those videos are gonna be coming out later this month. Yeah, like I don't want to give any. I don't want to. Where's the train at?
It's at Helen's house.
Somebody working on a train.
Yeah, it's my house. I live right next to the train station. Sorry.
That's one thing we're not going to have anymore is public transit.
You got to stop hanging out the window and doing this at that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My mistake.
Any hint? Electron Ash asks, any hint for the expensive thing?
Yeah, I have guesses.
I was trying to guess too. Like the most expensive.
Something with tungsten.
It made me try to think what the most expensive thing I've ever.
I'm going to say that the project
Saffron,
is going
probably.
to seem totally blasphemous, and like 95% of the comments are going to be like, "What the hell is wrong? Why would you do that?"
It's an Elder Wand.
It's going to be a good one. Bit Looney wants me to do a quiz because it is traditional to do a quiz on this channel, but unfortunately I don't have any quiz questions prepared. Instead, I think it's better to just wrap the MakerCast, and that's the MakerCast. That's what we got. We've all been building cool stuff, and hope you've enjoyed hearing about it. If you'd like our hosts, or if you like our guests today, you got to check the description. I have linked all their channels as well as the projects they were talking about today. So if you want something to follow up watching this with, the description is a treasure trove of things to dive into and rabbit holes to go down. Next month's episode will be hosted by Matthias Matosek, aka Mato. Remember that the podcast jumps around from channel to channel. So if you're interested in watching future episodes, you got to follow the MakerCast on Twitter. That's @TheMakerCast. If you want to see all the past episodes, check out the playlist of them, which I say hit the playlist in the description, but I realize I haven't linked it there, so you'll have to wait a minute or two. If you liked any of our participants, you can help their channels out by following those links, liking, subscribing, and switching on notifications for them. Thank you so much to the most excellent audience for your questions and your donations. We've raised $92 to support the EFF's mission of securing net neutrality. Thanks so much to Brooke for helping out. Thanks to our participants. And most importantly, thank you, the loving audience, for watching and listening. We will see all of you in the future. Take care.
Thanks, Brooke. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks for everything. Goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, there we go.